interesting is that now everybody uses parry a lot in Arizona specifically. This is a negative to me. It's a call out. And then our scene, man, I'm kind of a dick on this episode. I just want to be very clear here. I had food poisoning yesterday or last night, and I just shat all over Evo, and I was really cynical about this League of Legends thing. But like, I have been feeling shitty, and I'm just going. I'm hella negative right now, so I apologize for that. But
it's all right. Be the heel. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll play heel. Hello, and welcome to the Absolute Guard podcast. We're a competitive fighting game community podcast examining history and current events from the lens of the Arizona grassroots scene.
Yes, welcome. This is episode 73. My name is Benny, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host John. And today we're also joined by the X Button, aka Maynard. How's it going, Maynard?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for having me here.
Cool. So we had a few things on the agenda here. It's been a couple weeks since we've had a podcast episode just due to travel and other things that we had going on, but we're back at it again. We wanted to talk a little bit about Project L, or its new name, I guess I should say. We'll bring that up. Capcom Cup, the X Championship Series, which is a local tournament series put on by the X Button here, and then also talk a little bit about Evo and some of the things that were discussed with that in the past couple of weeks. So to kind of jump things off, the announcement today was that Project L has got its official name now, which is 2XKO, is what I hear it's supposed to be called. And I guess there's a lot of discussion about that because I think in Japan that's what Super Turbo is called, or something similar, right?
2X?
Yeah, that sounds right.
2X,
Street Fighter 2X, yeah.
I actually didn't think about that.
Yeah, so
and
that
then
was the
Super
thing.
Turbo Street Fighter 2 X dash, if I recall correctly. SF2 X dash. And they put a little apostrophe next to it.
So I guess I'll start with Maynard here. What do you think of the name that they've chosen?
I'm not a fan of the name. It's a little heartbreaking. It feels like there's nothing related to the league. I mean, like, the name is just like, hey, it's two characters knockout. I guess that's what they're aiming for. Like, I was watching a few videos. Someone did bring up that they had like an X already in the UI, which just is more Elon bait, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not vibing with it yet. I'm hoping it catches on later. I like the idea of Project L because it kind of went with the theme of like League stuff, especially with the project theme that they have, the skin themes. But name wise, I'm personally not a fan, but we'll see.
Yeah. So were you hoping for more of a like a kind of League of Legends kind of name put in it or something like that?
Yeah, like related to the themes. Like one of their alternate game modes is team fight tactics. I know like that doesn't have anything to do with like League, but team fights were a huge component of the mechanics in the game. So it at least had some sort of sense to it. Another one is Runeterra. I forgot the first part of it, but
Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah,
LOR.
and at least Runeterra was like a region, something lore based, and
Gotcha.
You know, it had something to do with it, but I don't know. It just feels like it's fully disconnected, even though it's still using the characters.
Yeah. What about you, John? What do you think?
Yeah, I have a theory about the title. It's that we're not the audience for the title. The audience is Korea and Japan, or not Korea and China, rather. So like, if you think about any kind of like branding that comes out of Korea or Japan, or damn it, Korea or China, it's usually abbreviated in just letters. Like even their K-pop group, right? For League of Legends, is KDA, right?
That's true.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
And then like a bunch of their teams, like a bunch of player names are all like letters essentially. Again, so like I think that a lot of this has to do with catering to that audience and not us. I think that there's like an SEO or a search engine optimization aspect to this as well, where 2XKO is a pretty unique looking string of letters compared to LOR, LOL, TFT even, right? And so it has a weakness though, for the American players, in that it's actually shorter to say Project L than 2XKO. So I'm guessing that the community is just going to call it 2X by the end of this.
Yeah.
Someone did bring up also, like, the naming scheme kind of feels very reminiscent of MVC2 or CVS2. I don't know if that is any correlation, but I kind of see the vibes. Like, it's not a stretch, but it's somewhat.
Oh, it's like
area.
MVC2 backwards.
Yeah.
It's
a little silly, but I thought it was interesting.
It doesn't look like the team had any input on the name from my perspective. It looks like it's a corporate mandated thing again, because they're catering. My theory is they're catering to the Asian audiences. So
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. I don't know. I'm a little indifferent to it. I mean, I'm not really big into League of Legends or any of the other stuff. Like I've dabbled in those games, but I don't know. It's just at the end of the day, it's a name, and like what people are gonna end up, calling it. Like you said, they might just call it 2X or double KO or whatever they want to call it. Like it's ultimately going to come down to like whether the game's good, and then the name might just be kind of irrelevant at that point, and then people will just call it whatever they want. Because I saw a lot of discourse and people just saying, I'm just going to call it Project L because I just really hate the new name, and I'm just going to continue to call it that. So it's just like you never know. It might just continue to, in the community, just people might just call it Project L.
Yeah.
I recently,
or 2X, honestly.
Yeah, I was recently on a Reddit thread, and it's like because people like will abbreviate game names for any fucking video game, not just fighting games. GOW. Are you talking about Gears of War? Or are you talking about God of War? Yep. And that actually has like real search engine ramifications now, or like real, like if someone's searching on the internet for stuff, and like say I'm the developer for God of War, and the next Gears of War is too woke, which is what people bitched about for Gears of War 5, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 5. Yeah.
An average an uninformed consumer might be like, oh, God of War's woke now, like like it's that kind of shit where it's like you might actually be associated with somebody else's product if your acronym is not unique enough.
A little off topic, or a topic to that was I'm a big fan of watching Dragon Ninja, who just streams multitude of games. He was doing Gears of War as a test for his new setup, and then the next day his title just says playing Gears. I'm like, oh cool, more Gears of War. I went to go on it, and he's playing Guilty Gear, and I'm like, damn, I got mixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point you bring up, John, in terms of like, yeah, especially the acronyms. I mean, it's one of those things like I used to work for GoDaddy years ago, and like the domain name thing was real big, and it was just like, are you the singular entity that owns this 3-letter, 4-letter domain name? Like those were huge things, and like people would just be like, well, I want Benny's seafoodfishhut.com, and it's just like, that's a really long domain name. Like, I mean, yeah, people probably remember it, but they gotta type that out. Wouldn't you just want, bsfh.com, and just like you're the one person that owns that? And I'm like, I guess, but it's a whole different kind of world we live in now. And it's just kind of crazy to think that I mean, that would be put into the I guess the proverbial hat in terms of like, well, should we choose this name or should we go with something else? Like you said, that's more shorthand and unique.
What's funny is that I just went to 2xko.com, and I'm like, oh, maybe it is so that way they can get the name. The domain is parked, courtesy of GoDaddy.com.
I think they went with the play 2xko was their.
That's a thing. I wonder if they'll do. I think GG was a good ender for a little while too, but I think those are actually funny. Associated with countries.
Yeah, a lot of those. I remember when we were, because the Maynard used to work there too at GoDaddy, and like the 3-letter domain names, like there was a thing where they're just like, all of these are taken. Like if you want one of these, like you're paying like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for these, because they're literally website destinations. Then the 4-letter ones are all taken up, and to think somebody had to go in there, and there's people that they would like call domainers that would just register every combination
Oh,
Like,
squatters. Yeah.
yeah, like they would just be like, well, I'm going to register 2kkc.com. Like, what the hell for? Us? It's like, I don't know. Somebody's going to have a company by that name eventually. So somebody somewhere registered 2xko and was just like, this is going to be something.
It's like an offshoot of those people that are buying real estate on the moon.
Yeah. You know, the person that owns 2xko, when they see this game announcement, they're going to be mad that they weren't talked to.
Yeah.
No, they're gonna be happy, dude. Riot's gonna write them a giant ass check.
Or they probably already got offered, and they probably already declined it. Like, it'll be worth more.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. But so the other things that we were going to talk about, I mean, that's
real quick. There's actually more about the 2xko. So
yeah,
what 2xko was that they also announced the playtest that they're doing the signups for it.
Oh, so, right. Yep. Yeah. I did that myself. Yeah.
Yeah. The survey was a little fun. It's hard to do on the phone because if you mess up and you hit back, you have to start from scratch. I know this by experience. I got 3/4 of the way through, messed up, and had to restart. So really excited. I have no clue when the actual date is, but it's cool that they put that out there. But they did also say that they are aiming for an actual full release next year, which is kind of in schedule for what Riot usually does. It's usually a 1-year beta test followed by a full release. So it looks like they're trying to run the same course with this. And last but not least, they also finally did a character or a model reveal for Illaoi. She's one of the characters.
I like Illaoi.
Yeah, they showed her off like in sketches, like at last Evo. They just kind of showed the sketchbook design, but she looks great. Design-wise, it looks really cool. We didn't get to see their concept because I think it was what's his name? JM Crofts said that he got to actually try her, and she was leaving tentacles as she attacks. So she's kind of a Marissa puppet style character, a big heavy bruiser with puppet mechanics, which sounds cool. Sounds really interesting. I've never heard of that archetype before, and I would love to see more in the future.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've always wanted to play like those kind of like puppet type characters in other games, and it's just like I don't know. They always ended up being a little too complicated for me.
Yeah, you play Dawson now, dog.
No, but he doesn't have a puppet though. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, what's her name in Street Fighter V? The Rose Maynard, yeah.
Yeah. Illaoi's interesting because she's I don't know if I want to get into this because I played a lot of Legends of Runeterra, and I did play the Ruined King as well. So I've actually played a fair amount of Riot games and know a lot of that lore. Illaoi is a very, very interesting character because she if she's tentacle based, they could have easily taken the easy way out and catered to Japanese people. And instead they made her a strong black woman. So good shit. There's a lot. I will give Riot props for having a very diverse cast, and then like really putting that diverse cast in the forefront. Like Illaoi and Jinx and Echo and Vi, like a lot of those characters, they seemed like kind of like they came later in the game's life cycle at League of Legends, right? But I think that they've kind of picked a core roster of characters that they repeat across different platforms. Like you don't see Aatrox. I don't think you're going to see him very often, right? But Yasuo you will. Like the characters that look like people, or fucking Mordekaiser or something. And now I'm getting too deep into the lore here, so I actually know what's going on. It's whatever. Like I don't want to play a 2v2 game ever again. So
that's fair.
But yeah, the playtest thing seems kind of interesting. I heard something about it being at-home playtests, which is going to be a unique distribution model. It's very unique that they're not doing a closed beta like how Tekken and Street Fighter 6 did it. Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 did it. They're referring it more to as a playtest, which implies that it's going to be more than just a phase of development like a beta does. And it kind of shows that they're really leaning more into the live service model, I think, than Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 have, which are more traditional off the shelf buy game thing. The thing that makes me the most intrigued by this model, because the reality is like the hype around this game is largely built upon Riot's ability to demonstrate a live service game. They were pioneers of that in the entire games industry, how you get a live service game going. But the problem is that this game is being released on consoles as well. In the PC ecosystem, they perfected the live service with all the microtransactions and all the community involvement, all that bullshit, right? But now they have console makers that they have to involve in it as well. So I'm curious about how the game how the structure of the game evolves over time with relationship to those different business entities.
Yeah, and I think this is Riot's first attempt of making their own live service on console. I don't think they've ever touched console before. It's always contracted to someone else out there.
Yeah, the Riot Forge system, right? Like Ruin King was a console game. Like it came out on, I played it on Switch of all consoles, but it wasn't a live service game. There were no microtransactions in it.
Yeah, so. And wasn't it developed by someone else? I believe it was.
Yeah, they have the Riot Forge program where I think they just have different teams that are like they lend the license to them. And I think Project L actually started as a Riot Forge game, because the team that's building Project L is largely the team that built Rising Thunder, which is the team that was started by the Evo founders Tony and Tom Cannon. I don't know why I know this much shit. I'm just information dumping. So
well, that's cool though.
Yeah. For a game I don't even intend to play.
Yeah.
You can commentate.
Yeah. I just find that there's always going to be that kind of like I'm in that area where, like I said, like I've dabbled in those games. I don't know the characters. I don't know the lore. I haven't watched the Netflix series that they had out.
It's
like,
good.
There's all that kind of stuff. And like, personally, like I'm not super interested in it. I'm semi interested in the game, but I don't know. We'll see when things come out and if I get into the playtest. I always find it kind of funny when I fill those out. It's just like I always think about filling out like the kind of the unique or the weird, the off answers, right? It's just like, because I don't have one of the new consoles, so I was just like, do I just put in that I just own an Xbox One, and would that get me in? Because I might be like the one person that doesn't have if I don't put in that I have a PC and I want to play on that, they'd be like, well, this guy would be a good guy to test on Xbox One. But I put it in for PC.
That's the logic that Tanner used for the Tekken 8 beta, if I recall, or the Mortal Kombat X or 11 beta, if I recall correctly. He's like, I'm playing on Xbox. Yeah, no one fucking plays on Xbox, so this works.
See, okay, so yeah, I'm not the only one that thinks like that too. Yep. Oh man, that's funny. So I guess the other thing that's currently going on in the fighting game world is Capcom Cup just started. We had the last chance qualifiers over the weekend. Yeah, and I guess the big discussion.
I want to use my joke. It's Capcom Cup X, and the LCQ or shit. Never mind. Actually, talk about it. I don't want to. I'll use my joke later. Yeah. Sorry, you know where I'm going with this.
I was gonna say the big discussion early on was kind of the group draw and the group discussions, because I think it's group, is it F?
Yes.
That's been like the most talked about, because in that group we've got Kaba, who's from the Dominican Republic. We've got Mena RD, who's from the Dominican Republic but is residing in the U.S. right now. And then we also had Angry Bird, who won Evo. So we had the first place, who's Angry Bird, Evo, first place finisher at Evo, the second place finisher at Evo, and Mena. And then we also kind of have the regional thing conflict going on. But to be fair with the regional thing, I guess from my understanding is one of them qualified for one region and then the other one qualified for like one of the US regions or the US qualifiers. So that's why they ended up being able to be put in the same group. And then you had other groups where, there were lesser known players and people were like, well, you have the group of death, as they pretty much like call it in anything now. Like I've always heard it in like soccer, like when it comes to the World Cup and things like that. There's always one group that's like, has 2 or 3 of the heavy hitters, and that's like only 2 people are going to advance. So that's the group of death, right? It's one of those heavy hitters is not going to make it out. So that was the big discussion here with Capcom Cup and Group F.
Yeah. There's multiple dimensions to this discussion, because like, we're talking about I think we talked about this on a previous episode, but it's the Olympics now, right? Where it's representation by country or region, and not necessarily like an open bracket format. I think that prior to prior to the actual tournament or the event starting, I think we all kind of expressed concerns that like, hey, the best players in the world are not going to be represented equally in this event. Like the Japanese region is one of the best regions, in my opinion, the best region for this game, at least density wise. There's just more good players from Japan, I think, than there are good players from America. But America has the exact same number of spots, or even actually it has more than Japan. Japan has 2 slots, and so it's like Fudo and I forget the other person. But Gachikun. Thank you. And so it's like, where are all those other Japanese players going to go? I want to watch Daigo play. I want to watch Tokido play. I want to watch Bonchan play, right? And I don't know if we want to talk much about the LCQ or if that was part of the conversation here, but watching the LCQ this weekend gave me that what I wanted, which is the best of the best with some missing people playing in a stacked ass bracket. And in that sense, 8 of the top 16 players were Japanese for the LCQ. So I actually kind of got what I wanted. So this group phase is kind of okay. Now I'm okay with it now because, you know, now it's basically both. It's the open bracket format with all the best players being represented, and this group phase thing that gives the spotlight to other regions that wouldn't ordinarily get the spotlight, like South America or Africa.
Yeah. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember, like, I know the big thing that people were worried about was like the lack of seeding and like points and kind of like the accumulation of points that happened when the previous years with the Capcom Cups and the offline events, right? Like you'd have the offline whatever premieres or whatever they do like that, and you get awarded points, weighted points based on like how many people entered the brackets and things like that, right? And how large the event was. Mm-hmm. And for this year, they kind of went away with that, right? Like you had instant qualifiers. Draw, right? Yeah, you had instant qualifiers that were like region based, and it's just like, we had like the West qualifier for like California and Arizona, Vegas, stuff like that, and then you had like the East Coast one and whatever. And I don't know. I remember having a discussion about this with, I don't know if it was on Facebook or something, with somebody about the Red Bull thing that they did in the U.S. And you remember that they had different cities represented, right? Or different regions. It was like Los Angeles, and then it was like Phoenix had one, and then, it was other cities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember because I was perfectly okay with that, because I wanted to see something where there was kind of more regional representation, right? And that there were restrictions in place for people to not enter if they weren't residing in that area. Because I was just like, well, I want to see different people that, I don't see all the time. And then there was the side, like you were saying, where they were like, well, I just want to see the best players in the US. And, if Justin Wong doesn't qualify in SoCal and he wants to go to Phoenix and qualify there, he should be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And, that was my exact counterpoint, was just like, well, he doesn't live here. Like, I don't want him to be representative of our region. Like, I want the best player that's in our area to be represented. Whether or not you guys think he's a top player or not, like, to me, like the whole idea and the kind of like the allure of it all was to see some of these no-name players kind of potentially make a name for themselves that you wouldn't normally see. But I mean, I can see the other side too, where it's just like, well, I'm kind of seeing it at Capcom Cup too, where I'm just like, I don't know half of the players there, and I'm just like, somebody might be like, oh yeah, he's the top guy in Europe, and I'm just like, I know like 3 top players in Europe. Everybody else, I'm like, okay, like.
It's kind of a chicken or the egg problem, right? Where it's like, well, how are you going to know them unless they get that opportunity in the first place? And now you do. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's like Travis Styles is a good example, right? He's from Australia. He's the best player in Australia. He was the best player in
I didn't even know who that was. I saw like a picture of like his photo with him with his like duck lips or whatever, and I'm just like, who's like that guy?
Model, dude. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I was just like, who is this guy? And like, I was like, I have no clue who that guy was.
He was known as the Blue Steel.
Yeah, the Blue Steel. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Maynard? Because obviously, like, like I said, like for the Red Bull thing back when that happened a few years ago, I was more akin to wanting to see regional representation. John
Yeah.
was just talking about how he wants to see the best players. Like, how do you feel in terms of like how Capcom Cup was represented this year?
Uh, I mean, it's cool to be able to see those people, but like half of these matches in these groups, I just really don't have any care about. So, like,
Hmm.
Group F is the only one I'm really focused on, and then Group B for Big Bird and Nephew. Those are like really the only two. So, like yesterday, after I'm done chilling, hanging out, those are the only matches I kind of looked for. I
Hmm.
couldn't really sit around for I don't know how many hours this whole thing was, but it was a long time. And honestly, I just picked and chose at that time. And compared it to like Evo, where there's something crazy that might happen, some crazy upset out of nowhere. I kind of don't have that spark at that moment, just because everything's in a contained group.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
I
mean,
do.
yeah. Like,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say, like, I do think it's cool that people are getting seen, especially
Mhm.
from places that aren't normally there, such as the Travis Styles. Like, that picture is just amazing. But you know, I haven't watched any of his matches. Maybe I'll check it out later. But yeah, as of watching it live, I don't mind missing it at this point.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I've kind of been watching and then like I tune into like the kind of the heavy hitter matches, like the Mr. Crimson and Knuckle Dew. Like that was one of the ones I was looking forward to. Those kind of matches. And then like yeah, the others like I've been playing like Hearthstone on the side or whatever and just like, oh, I'm tuning in like, oh, what happened? And then like I kind of catch the replay clips that they put together. But like yeah, I definitely don't have a lot of as much interest as I would like if they were more like the bigger names.
Yeah,
But I mean, like you
I
said, I don't know. It's kind of a I don't know.
maybe after the group phase, I'll come back and actually pay attention, just because it is at that point the best of the best from those groups. But
Yeah,
there's still probably going to be people that get sniped out, or matches I won't care about until it gets to the top 8.
yeah. Well, I mean,
I
like I said, I brought up the World Cup earlier, and it's just like there's always going to be kind of like a group of death, and then there's also going to be occasionally like those upset teams, right? Like there's going to be some name that we didn't expect to come out of the group. You know, I'm sure that if you looked at all the groups other than Group F, everybody has like a top two that they're just like, yeah, these two should make it out. But there's always going to be kind of like that dark horse candidate or somebody that kind of just comes out of nowhere and is having like the best weekend of their life.
I think it's worth noting for our listeners here. Like we're taping this on. We don't usually like to date the podcast, but we're taping this on February 22nd, and that's the Capcom Cup group phase is currently going on right now. So by the time you're listening
Yeah.
to this, you might like the group phases might be over. Capcom Cup might even be over. But as of right now, we are in the middle of it. So we know that the LCQ has finished. Which I'm going to tell my fucking joke now. I didn't want to ruin the winner of that LCQ, but I think we're probably not going to talk too much about it. Capcom Cup X winner, the LCQ winner was Problem 10. That's it. That was my joke. That's it.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just like again, like going back to the original discussion in terms of like the group seating or how the groups were set. Like
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I did find a table where I saw like how they were doing it, where it was like region this or whatever, and it was a certain setting of how they did it. And I posted this out on Twitter, like um in terms of how they set up the groups. I think what they should do is like it's something that's done in like soccer, like the Champions League in soccer is going on right now. That's like pretty much like the biggest like club soccer thing that goes on. And the way they kind of do it is they have certain like top seeds, right? Like they have like a top 8, right? So for the fighting games, like you would have like kind of these auto qualifiers, like it would be like the huge events, Evo, like CEO, Combo Breaker, Evo Japan, and then I don't know what the other 4 like big events would be, right? But the winners of those would basically be put into a draw, and then I mean, just for it's basically just to put them into a group, right? Like Angry
Yep.
Bird gets put in the group C. The winner of CEO, I don't even remember who that was. He get put in the to group G or whatever, and then the rest of the people are kind of pulled in, and into like a random drawing after that. But then there's also like restrictions on like regional things, like when it comes to like the Champions League. Like so a European team or like an English team or something like that, I think it is, can't be put into the same group as like another English team, or like a German team can't be put in the same group as another German team, and that's kind of how they force things to be mixed up, and also to keep the top contenders or the top seeds away from playing each other initially. And so that would be my suggestion for something like that, because like the people that have won those like huge events like Evo, they're gonna be
Yeah.
set aside from like the other ones that win those big events too. Because ideally, like that's what you want to see, right? Is like, if those people are really like the best, like they should come out of the group and should be into like the final stages.
I was actually talking to my wife about this, who's also a huge World Cup fan. And she she first professed her love for FIFA as an organization. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's corrupt as shit. But the big thing is the World Cup has a benefit. Like the seeding numbers are actually more accurate because the World Cup has a benefit of being held every 4 years instead of every 1 year. So all
Yeah.
the teams and the clubs get a chance to play each other. And again, I'm not taking credit for this viewpoint. Jess came up with it. She's way smarter than me in that regard. But she so that the, they can all play each other and then get a really truly accurate seeding, and then take that into the qualifying group phases, right? But we don't have that luxury. So with Combo Breaker as a good example, right? What if Problem X flew into a Combo Breaker, which is a very likely scenario, and then he won the whole thing and qualified for it? Do we how do we separate that? Do we say that means no player from the UK can actually be in the group, or no player from America, which is where Combo Breaker is, can be in the group?
Yeah.
Like we have these added complications because we're not associated with a country. We're individual players, and we're not teams. We're individual players.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't thought that deep into it, but I mean, it's kind of like
Jess is
I felt
smarter
like
than most of us. I'm just saying,
yeah.
she's
Well,
so
I
smart.
just I felt like the major discussion was just more about like the the winner of certain tournaments or whatever, or first and second place. I mean, first and second place, I think that's kind of, I don't know if you can really account for those, because a lot of the top players might be in those same positions. But I
Yeah.
don't know. It's one of those things. Like I definitely feel like it could have been done better. And I don't know. I think I brought this up on the podcast before, but it's like it kind of reminds me of like that team tournament I did for Street Fighter Five, where it was like I remember like I had a little powwow beforehand, and you were part of that group too that I think I talked to, John, and like I personally picked out like however many people we had there, whatever it was, 24 people or 30 people or whatever, right? And I was like looking at the crowd, and I was just like, who do I think are the best 8 players in this group? And I was just like, these are going to be the captains of the teams. And then I had like 3 or 4 people come up, and I was just like, would you agree that these are the best players here today? And pretty much everybody was like, yeah, I would say so. And then I had each of you come up and then just draw 2 random names, and that was your team, right? So essentially, it would have been something like that, right? In order to kind of separate the top players. But again, like you said, there's a much bigger nuance and other things to consider in terms of region, because of the fact that we are individual players, and like we don't have restrictions, because we're not going to stop Problem X or Daigo from entering CEO just because they don't live here, right? That's the kind of the
Yeah.
nature of the FGC, is the open bracket.
We're also like we're in a spot now where there's $2 million on the line, and so any kind of like judgment call like what you made where you pick the top 8 players, that is still subjective in nature. And when you have that much money on the line, like legality can actually get involved here. Like you could claim favoritism for a specific, and take people to court or something over that
Well,
shit.
I wouldn't do it for Capcom. I was just I was just
Right,
using
but
that as an example. Yeah.
but like that's the difference between our grassroots scene, right? Is that to us it's about the game, and even the not I'm not even talking about the fighting game. I'm talking about the game of like creating the structure of a tournament, or creating this like an event in general. But now there's like we're just trying to make the game the most balanced thing possible, but they have to worry about shit like international laws, and how the currency is going to transfer over in between each region, having a network between all those different regions in general, having language barriers, visas, all
Yeah.
that other shit. I,
And
I think the draw was they randomized it essentially, right? And that's probably the only way you could do it with that much money
yeah,
on the line. So
yeah.
I agree in that it feels shitty, but does it feel shitty because it was random and just the outcome of it, or like is there actually a better way? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I
Maynard, you've
mean,
had a lot of opinions on seeding lately too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard just because of how many people that they wanted to qualify and put into
mhm.
groups. I honestly I can't even think of a answer for it is. Because yeah, looking at Group F and just staring at it, I'm just like, damn, it's crazy because of how many stories are built into that group. Just Meta RD and Kaba being teammates, Meta RD and Angry Birds like rivalry this whole year, and in
Mhm.
Walker being one of the youngest players and having that run last year. Um, like I don't know how to fix that because even then moving them around, like I'm sure there's some other crazy thing that's gonna come up just moving them
Yeah,
around. And even then, like as John was saying, it comes down to favoritism at that point, or people can speculate it being favoritism. There's like the fact that this was all randomized, like it just sucks that Group F happened. There's
yeah.
nothing else we could do about it.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. It always kind of goes back to this thing to where like I think about it from like a TO perspective, and it's just like you can't make everybody happy, right? And it's just like if we do all the offline events and kind of do away with a majority of the online events, then the people that you know can't participate and don't travel and are pros are going to be like, well, I don't even have the opportunity to go to this thing and make a name for myself, right? Whereas the online thing now it's just like, well, I know I'm one of the best players in Southeast Asia and I proved it, and now I'm here, and now I get to put myself against the test against the best in the world, right? And there's a whole other side of that, and it's just like I see both sides of that, and like I understand like a lot of the hype from the FGC in years past was because of offline events, and there's a certain segment of people that just love going to offline events, and it's just like I'll go to East Coast Throwdown, I'll go to SoCal Regionals when that was happening, NorCal Regionals. I go to Texas Showdown and all this other stuff. And I think for the vast majority of people that's not something that's feasible, right?
Even then, it's like I think we can agree at least that like the online qualifier system for this Capcom Pro Tour really sucked as far as like the enjoyment of it. Like Texas Showdown, Combo Breaker, SCR, NCR. Now we have CPT US West 1 and CPT US West 2. And like
Yeah.
nobody remembered when those were going on, right? And like
Yep. Yeah. The
it all
promotion was
felt like
bad.
the same thing over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Oh yeah, and the other thing you have to think about, there's a whole nother um set of problems you got to deal with online too, whether it's like the connections between people or people like representing themselves twice under a different name. Like I've seen that pop up on Twitter amongst not just Street Fighter, amongst other tournaments where it's just like, oh well, so and so enter this tournament twice under a different name, and like that kind of stuff can happen from an online thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that's
It's
happened offline too. People entering
yeah. I mean,
twice.
yeah, it has happened offline. Like
I'm looking at
I
you,
know more
Evo
than.
Cross Tekken.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we've discussed that on the show too in the past. So um, yeah, I don't know. It's just I know that that's been the biggest discussion amongst people, but I'm hoping people like at least once the final stage of the things get down to it, like Maynard said, like we're filtered out who the best people are in these groups, and hopefully people can find an enjoyment in what's what it's going to be at that point.
The thing that makes me like not get upset about it or like makes me happy about this whole thing is that um like fundamentally I still got what I want with the LCQ, and
Hmm.
I just think that I'm not necessarily the audience that they want for Capcom Cup anymore. As a player, the audience is for the average person, the average spectator that just wants to cheer for their home team, and that's
Yeah,
cool because it brings more people and more eyes onto the fighting game scene, and more people can share with the thing that we love. Um,
yeah,
and Evo is still there, Combo Breaker is still there, CEO is still there, so I'll still get what I want. It's just I get less, and I have to share it now with a new breed of spectators.
Yeah, I mean that kind of segues perfectly into what we were going to talk about also in terms of Evo, because I remember from discussions that I've had with you, kind of like in our group chats, is like you felt like the audience and what Evo represents and what it's catering to is a lot different than in years past and what it is compared to Combo Breaker and CEO, which people still see as more grassroots, whereas Evo has become kind of like the big kind of corporate giant or whatnot, and it's been
Yeah.
catered more to the public. And to me, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of uh, goes into this whole like influencer culture we have now, right? Like I feel like people would go to like Evo and be like, "Hey, I'm at Evo," and post it at Instagram. I'm at the biggest fighting tournament in the world, and I wouldn't see those kind of people go to like Combo Breaker and CEO and do that same thing, right? Like Evo's become kind of this huge kind of spectacle, and I think that what this discussion even stemmed from was because of the Super Bowl. Like we were talking about the Super Bowl and things like that, and then you were
Mm-hmm.
like, Evo is like the fighting game Super Bowl, right? And for the uninformed, like the Super Bowl, is the biggest NFL football game in the world, right? It's for the championship or whatever. They call it the World Championship. If you talk to people that follow soccer, they'll be like, "It's not the World Championship because it's only an American thing," and I'm just like, whatever. But even then, it's a huge spectacle, right? And it's gotten to the point to where the everyday fan cannot go and watch it, right? The seats are in the
Too
tens of
expensive.
thousands of dollars, like hotel prices and everything there is skyrocketed to the point to where it's not for the everyday fan and for the everyday Joe, right? It's
Right.
for corporate sponsors, it's for the players and their families and stuff like that, or it's just for the ultra rich and kind
Celebrities.
of the celebrities and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you were comparing that to Evo and kind of what it's become now. So, Evo 2024 is going to be at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And then I think the partner hotels were what, the Westgate, and I forgot the other one.
Oh, the
Um,
Westgate.
yeah. And so what was it, Evo 2015 was at the convention center, if I
Yeah,
remember right?
the
At the
championship.
Westgate? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 2014, 2015, something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was 2015 because that was the one where I remember
It
coming out
was
of
the
the
first
first
year
Street
Street
Fighter
Fighter
5 one.
Five.
Yeah,
That's when they didn't put the P in championship, so it's
yeah,
championship.
yeah,
Yeah.
the championship.
Yeah.
So first of all, like,
Oh, right. The convention center. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I thought we were
yeah,
talking about the Westgate. That was earlier, but yeah.
so
Basically, there's been an Evo before at the Westgate in the ballrooms at Westgate, not at a convention center. And so
oh, right, right, right,
we
right,
were really young then.
yeah. So what are your guys' thoughts on first in terms of like the convention, the Las Vegas Convention Center choice? Like, do you guys like that choice? Do you not like that choice? I'll let you go first, Maynard.
I mean, I think it's good overall based on what I'm hearing. I think the biggest complaint that people were having was that there was no day 3 for the players. So if you didn't get a stadium ticket, your day 3 was kind of wasted. It was just watch it at the hotel or something. You don't really
Mm,
interact with anyone else at that point. The convention's over. So
yeah.
having it at the convention center now and having that third day available, so venue is still open. You could shop around. You could, still get some games in. I think that's a really big plus, and I'm really excited for that to be there. And I think the next big plus was that they made every main game available to be played at the arena that they're having.
Mm,
So that's kind of cool that everyone that is in a main game could kind of get that arena presence, kind of get that arena feel. Like last year, it was cool that DBZ still got the cell screen, but it was just the Saturday, and it wasn't at that big arena. But
mhm.
so I think that's cool that those games are able to get that respect, and especially like Third Strike coming back. So it's going to be really cool to see that. But I mean, the downside is, that price. It's it's hefty.
Yeah.
I've already seen 2 people that usually go fall off because it's just too much.
Mm.
And I don't know Like,
Yeah, we'll jump back to that shortly here because I wanted to talk about that specifically in terms of like the reg costs and stuff because that personally kind of affected like my decision to go too. But what about you, John? In terms of like the convention center and the like Maynard said the third day being available now and being a thing, and then also kind of the like the arena ticket being included with that. How do you feel about the whole convention center choice?
Uh, I have strong opinions about the reg price too, so I don't want to go too far ahead on that one. But this is a monkey's paw situation where we were constantly complaining about the arena and how it was a why not have a third day, and so we get the third day, but now it's prohibitively expensive and it's mandatory. Um, like if you want to buy the whole weekend pass, you have to buy like you have to pay that much money. It's extremely expensive, and it's a necessary evil in that the event has grown so much anyway, where they had to change. There was nothing that could be done about that because more people are going to keep coming to it. And so even if we said, well, I don't actually want keep the price low, I don't want to do it like that. Doesn't matter. Then Evo would have sold out, and then we wouldn't be able to go anyway. So we have this problem where like it was cheap last year and it was cheap the year before because frankly events are still coming back from the pandemic. I think now they're roaring again, and now with all the changes in the way the world's worked with inflation and whatnot, the prices have become normalized. But then by asking for a third day, you are essentially asking to have to pay the staff that runs the event to work a third day. Work an additional day because they usually take that third day to break everything down. So they're still working 3 days anyway, but now you're asking them to work 4 days and are probably a lot more than that. I don't know the exact numbers there, but we have to pay for that. That it just gets passed on to the consumer at a certain point. And that's actually my biggest gripe here is that we are consumers now and we're not players. And I don't know how to answer. Like, I don't know what the answer is for that because that's just part of growth, and that's what's happened with the corporatization of the FGC. I think that we are the C in the FGC, the community aspect of it. It's community in name only at this point. By now, the top influencers or celebrities like our Taylor Swift, Justin Wong is going to be walking around at Evo, and he's gonna have a grand old time. He's gonna make a fuck ton of money doing it, right? But like the average player, especially in our grassroots scene, it's because it's not a community anymore. It's a convention. And I know we've always said that, it's a convention and not a tournament, but like this is the most not tournament feeling that I've gotten for Evo, and I don't know. Like I haven't even bought my tickets yet. And like. I don't want to go too far into what I think where we're going here, but the community that I grew up with, like I remember going to final round for the first time and going to Atlanta, Georgia, and getting to meet a lot of the players there. And I remember going to New York and getting to meet a lot of players there. And nowadays they won't go to Evo. The reality is that the FGC is an arcade culture based community. We're no longer arcade based. We're all online. We're all consoles and everything. But it had the way the community was structured was around lower incomes because of that. Because it was cheaper to go to the arcades than to have your friends over at a house and have to buy a console and a TV and all the other shit. So the actual like DNA of the fighting game community is in poor people. And so now we have this huge like dichotomy or like this paradox of, well, how do we put a ton of money into the scene and still keep that grassroots feel? The answer is we don't. We just put a ton of the money in the scene, and then the people that made it have made it. Maximilian has millions and millions of dollars now. Players are sponsored, but like for us, we're the ones who suffer for that fundamentally. And so I'm extremely cynical and extremely pessimistic about this. I will probably still go because I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford that. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't like
no,
it.
I see
I
what
don't
you're
like
saying.
it at
Yeah,
all.
I mean, well, first to clarify, like when you mentioned Monkey's Paw. For those people that don't know, it's more basically to kind of like wish for something and not think about like the possible consequences, right? So, in that regard, what you're talking about is like the whole third day of Evo, right? Because a lot of people are just like, well, I didn't get an arena ticket. Like I saw a lot of that on Twitter, right? Like the arena tickets are sold out last year, and people are like, oh, well, my whole weekend's ruined. Like that was like the main thing that they wanted to go to, right? It wasn't necessarily like entering the tournament, and that was my first glimpse into kind of like what you were talking about, and where like the audience isn't the same anymore, right? Because to me, going to Evo, like, yeah, finals were cool, but it was like it was the participation and being able to be a part of that tournament. You know, the open bracket, largest tournament in the world, right? I get to participate in that myself. And to see from people last year where people were like, I didn't get an arena ticket and, you know, their weekend's ruined. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. That was kind of a eye-opening thing for me to see.
You know what the best metaphor for this is last Evo, they shut down all the casual stations.
Oh,
Like when top 30 or top 64 or top 128 was going on, they shut down a lot of the casual stations because the
mm-hmm.
PlayStation 5s were frying. They were melting USB ports, which our buddies Saber and Kyoku were actually at the forefront of
Yeah.
posting that on Twitter, and then they got put on
And
Kotaku and it went viral and shit, right?
yeah,
And
people
so
thought they were lying too.
yeah, but I actually think that Evo is owned by Sony now, so they don't want negative press, so they shut down the fucking casuals, which is the reason why a lot of us go.
Yeah.
So it's a great metaphor for corporate interest over community benefit. I just uh,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
never
just
gonna
like
get a job at Evo now. Well, this is gonna be surfaced some 10 years later, and they'll be like, "You talk shit about Sony," you know. uh,
yeah, like for me personally, like when it comes to the convention center, like I have fond memories of the last time Evo was there because like we mentioned, that was the first Street Fighter 5 tournament. That was the first time I ever got out of pools. Like was that first Street Fighter 5 tournament. So like beyond that, and then like a bunch of my friends from Alaska, that was like their first time getting out of pools. So like that was a very memorable experience for me that year. That was also the year like we kind of had this like two-story loft thing that we rented instead of staying in like the discounted hotel. Like we split costs with that, and then I hosted like the 5v5 between the AZ scene and the Alaska scene. So again, just that like I have very fond memories of particularly that place. So for me, like I didn't really care that it was being held there. I started looking at other hotels because there's actually a few other hotels that are kind of close to that new West Hall where they're being hosted things, where they're
mhm.
hosting things. There's like a couple Marriotts and stuff that are more expensive, but are still, I think, a little bit closer. So they might actually be like shorter walking distance if like the main stuff isn't is sold out or whatever. But I do, I do like the idea of them having a third day and then also having the arena ticket included. But like you said, that's kind of a consequence of what people wanted, right? Is that the reg price was going to be higher, and to that point, like in comparison, I was looking it up because I was looking at potentially going to Combo Breaker as well, but it seems like their hotel situation is kind of crazy over there. But to register for Combo Breaker for like a competitor pass is like $135 before you pick any games, and then those are like what $10 each, I think. Um, and then for Evo, in comparison, the 3 day pass without any games is like $204. So that's a $80 difference. I mean, I'm not gonna say for the same type of experience because I mean I haven't been to Combo Breaker, but that's the one that I hear a lot of
Is
people
better.
would recommend too, like in terms of like kind of the grassroots FGC type thing that's still going on. And yeah, that Evo price, yeah, that especially now because like when I was looking at potentially volunteering, like I haven't done it in the past. My wife did, and I have other friends that volunteered to run pools and stuff like that. Typically, you would get like a at least a pass to get in, right? And from what I saw now, like that doesn't seem to be a thing. So that kind of weighed heavily into kind of my decision to go was just the fact that if my wife was going to accompany me too, and even if she was going to judge or whatever volunteer, like we'd still have to pay at least that $205 for her just to even get in. So I don't know. It's kind of
Not
been
worth it
a
anymore.
bittersweet feeling. Yeah, it's kind of been a bittersweet feeling because like this was actually like I couldn't make last year for various reasons, just kind of things coming up, and I was really kind of determined to go this year, and I've kind of just made up my mind this year like it's not worth it. Like I mean, even us being in Arizona, like we have the benefit of being able to take our own cars and to save money on flight tickets and stuff like that. We don't have to do that. I even have the benefit of my family being there, so if I wanted to really cut costs, I could stay with them and it would just be an inconvenience of having to kind of go back and forth and not sleep at the hotel, right, or sleep on site or somewhere nearby. But even with considering all that stuff, if I was to cut all those costs, like to me it's just gotten to the point to where like I just don't feel like that 200 almost 30-40 dollars if I'm when I start adding games in there is really worth it to me anymore.
I feel like we've been priced out of the community. There's
Yeah,
not a community anymore. I just feel like we've been priced out, or pushed
yeah.
out or whatever. And I remember being in my early 20s and just being like, growth, growth, growth. We just need growth, and then once the money starts coming in, everything will be peachy. And it is peachy for the folks that really capitalized on it. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a crab bucket problem in a lot of ways. Crab bucket as in like, you have a bunch of crabs in a bucket, everyone's trying to get out. All the different crabs are trying to climb out of the bucket, but in doing so, they're
Mhm.
climbing on top of each other to get out of the bucket.
Yeah. Yeah, Maynard,
Everybody
you mentioned. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
everyone was cheering on Gutex because Gutex was going to be, the guy that makes the FGC profitable. In reality, he just wanted to get really fucking rich. He didn't give a shit about growing the community. It's stuff like that where we're not it's starting to become apparent to me that there is a difference between community versus people that are capitalism. Capitalists
Yeah.
versus community. There's my summary. Sorry.
No, that's a fair point, man. But I was gonna say, like Maynard, you mentioned like of two people that have decided not to go, and it was because of the basically kind of the registration costs.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, did you have anything more to kind of say about that, or like was that really like really heavily into their decision to not go?
Yeah, like I mean, for the most part, it's just they're not as competitive as they once were. So,
Hmm.
like getting out of pools are cool, but for that type of money that you're spending and to try to get like casuals in, like one of them, for example, just would rather go to Combo Breaker. Completely understandable. Combo Breaker has a 24-hour venue and you
Hmm.
can play games almost the entire time if you really wanted to. And that's cool. But yeah, it's just, I mean, as we all know, it does feel more like a convention than it is a tournament, which
Yeah.
understandable. I'm personally still going. I actually got my ticket, but it was a big penny, and it actually affected me in the sense that my goal of trying to go to 3 tournaments this year is not going to happen. I'm only going to go to Evo. Is
Yeah.
what's happening now.
Yeah, like I've mentioned this on the show in the past. Like Evo, like the last Evo I went to was 2016. I think the second year of Street Fighter Five. And then when they moved the dates into August and stuff like that, it kind of overlapped with like my kid's school schedule and stuff like that. I couldn't go, and that's kind of when I at the time stopped playing Street Fighter Five. Is because like Evo was a big motivator for me to because I didn't go to like a lot of the other tournaments that were going on, right, the East Coast Throwdowns and CEO and stuff like that. Evo was the one that was manageable in terms of travel costs and all that stuff. That was the one that my friends from Alaska would go to because that was why not go to the biggest one if they're gonna all go to it. It's Vegas also. I mean, if you live in Alaska, it's like two birds with one stone. I get to go to the biggest fighting tournament in the world, and I get to go spend a few days in Vegas. So that became a big thing for me, and that was kind of like my big motivation to kind of go back and go back to Evo was to kind of have that experience again, like I did in years past. But considering the cost, and then um, the fact that I've been to Alaska two times in the last 3 years, and that was for the first time since I left. Like it took me 10 years for me to go back. Um, and now, like when I talked to with my wife, it became more of a thing where it's just like, why not instead of this money and us going to Evo, why don't we just like I would rather put that back into just going to Alaska at some point and then seeing our friends that way. Because like my wife still has family there, so it's just kind of like I'd rather put that money towards like a short vacation in Alaska and maybe just plan around like one of their local tournaments. And then that way I can kind of, in my way, that would be that's a more fun experience for me, would be to go back there, see my friends, play in a local tournament there, than to just, go to Evo. And I don't know, I think in some ways that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I think we're gonna start really seeing a schism between the professional FGC and the grassroots FGC. Like even in the past, we never, like, I say grassroots as the intro to our podcast, right? But like that usually just means local scene. But nowadays, a little bit in the future, it's probably going to mean non-corporate, which is that Alaska crew, Alaska gamers, and we had Banksy on a couple episodes ago, right? Like
And Banky.
they're sorry, Banky. I don't know. I can say Banksy.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Banksy's that
singer.
artist.
Yeah.
No,
he's a
Banksy's
good
that
artist.
artist that
Sorry.
ran that artist that does graffiti and stuff.
Sorry, Banky. But yeah, like they're gonna keep trucking along. They're gonna keep hosting at that storefront they have, and
Yeah.
and so we'll do what we can, and keep like it doesn't mean that we can't keep playing these games and keep building a local community and building relationships with folks there.
Yeah, the last time I kind of had this feeling about stuff like this is when I ended up hosting Southwest Shockwave. I kind of had this whole feeling about like just wanting to do my own thing and like a 1 day event. And I remember talking to Scott about it too, and like how the 3 day events were too much sometimes and all this other stuff. And like that was kind of my motivation for putting on something like that. I was like, you know what? I just want to have a 1 day tournament. Whoever wants to come comes out, and let's just go do something like that. So I mean, I don't know. It's making me think about stuff like that again.
Party
What's
at the end of the day,
that?
it's a potluck or a party, or
Yeah.
that's the true community that I remember, and I think we'll just keep doing that.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of locals, like the one thing locally that we have going on right now is the X Championship Series, which has been sponsored and hosted and streamed by the X Button here. So we've talked about it briefly in a couple of the previous episodes before things kind of kicked off. But give us a kind of a rundown of how things are going right now, Maynard. Like how have you been feeling about like the events that have happened? Like how many have we had, and who have we qualified so far?
Yeah, so
Have
we're
your
halfway
pictures ready
through.
too.
Nice. We're halfway through the season. So we did 3 of the 6 events. First event was in Casa Grande, over at the Throwback Family and Fun Center.
Yeah, Throwback Family
Uh,
Fun.
it's a pretty cool center. It's a pretty fun area. We had a lot of Phoenix and Tucson players come in. I think it was 16, 17 players that were playing competitively, and and Velociraptor was the one to take that one home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. I was able to make a picture, and he was kind of the baseline of me getting everything set up there. So
I have that
big
pulled up.
congrats to him. Awesome. Awesome. And after that, the next week was the Tucson tournament, down to the wire, part 4. In that one, we had 17 players, and that one, so Thrasher qualified, but Velociraptor was the one to actually take the tournament. Due to my ruling, I did mention that if the first player was already qualified, it will go to the second place. And Thrasher was in the winners bracket. He put Velociraptor into losers. So it's Velociraptor versus Sia in the loser semi. And Thrasher's just cheering on Velociraptor the entire time, because if Velociraptor win, he's guaranteed in. And that was a kind of a funny thing to see. But yeah, big congrats to him. He was able to take that. And last but not least, February 17th, we had Secret Lab 6. This was during the start of the LCQ for Capcom Cup. So I do think it was a little bit of a smaller turnout, but it was still very successful. We had 12 players, and Sia taking that one and qualifying for the XCS. He was able to eliminate like Freezy. Myself, I got third. It was actually a Marissa bracket. It was like 4 Marissas. So one of the players, AZ Yun02, only fought Marissas the entire tournament.
Oh man!
So he got the true matchup experience. But yeah, so far it's a lot of fun. Next month will be the startup again. So there's like a 2-week break between this weekend and next weekend. And then starting on the 9th, we'll be coming back to Tucson for Down to the Wire 5. The week after, we're going to be doing the Casa Grande on March 16th. And then on the 23rd, we'll be coming back to the Gaming Zone for the final qualifier, or the final qualifier for the tournament series, before we go into a last chance qualifier in April and the top 8. So April, it's going to be a long day for me. I want to do it's pretty much running 2 different tournaments for me, having the last chance qualifier and qualifying 2 people, as well as closing it out with the top 8 tournament and trying to stream and play every match.
Yeah. So in terms of the current qualifiers, so there's 3 more qualifiers for the remaining other three auto spots. So you mentioned Thrasher qualifying because he got second because Velociraptor won already and is qualified. So is it going to continue to cascade like that of those 2 or actually those 3 enter tournaments? Like say for instance, Velociraptor, Thrasher, and Sia enter this next tournament, and they get the top 3. So will the 4th place person then qualify?
You know what? That's where I got it up to. I am actually recording points, and it's actually something I wanted to bring up. Talking about how I'm into seeding right now. I'm actually been working with this. A big shout outs to Ray Freaky. Ray Freaky.
It's Ray.
I'm mispronouncing it.
Ray.
It's Ray.
We know Ray. He's in Spain.
Thank you, Ray.
Big shout outs to him. He helped me out. Also big help from Swift Milk with coming up with some ideas. So thank you, both of you guys, especially Ray, for really pushing this and getting this up. But I don't have any way to present it, but I do have a point system going out where I'm going to roll the last 3 months of your records. So first place, you get 10 points. Second place, you get 8, and it goes down all the way up to the top 8. So as long as you're getting top 8, you're getting some points. So when I start seeding, I could use these points and I'll seed the top 8, where everyone else will then become a random seeding. That way, it rewards players that keep coming, that keep qualifying or getting into the top 8. But also, I'm having it roll within the 3 months. So in April, it will be looking at January, February, and March. But then
so it's more. So it's basically current.
Yep. But then when May comes around, January falls off. We're not even looking at January anymore. That's no longer into consideration. So we'll look at your February, March, and April dates. And based on your point value there, if you're within a top 8, you will get seeded in your top 8. So that way you can kind of get a better bracket. This will help with, like I said, reward players that come out that are ranking, but also new players that come in, whether they're just like gifted or they had to take a break or they're just coming into the scene for the first time, moving in. They still have a chance of, ranking and being consistent. So they'll cause some upsets, get some top 8s, start getting a score. And, after 2 months, 3 months of them playing, maybe I might start being able to seed them. They might cause some upsets and show that, hey, they're really worth the top 8. And, I want to reward that for their play.
Okay, so basically, I shouldn't show up so then I can cause upsets. Got it. I'm just
Hey, you might get randomized, and you might have to start with fighting the 2-time first place Velociraptor right off the bat. But you never know. With that in mind, because of the point system, I am also using that as like a deep backup. If it comes to the point where 4 players have qualified and there is no, I can't really give 2 people in 5th place a qualification, I might have to resort to looking at the seeding and have to do that. And this might be something I might have to work out in the future. If this is great and successful where I run it annually, I could work on improving it. So next year, season 2 comes around, I could try to improve it and do better. And, I would love feedback. Please, if you think of something better or anything of that sort, please message me and tell me your ideas. But I did set the rules in the first place. I want to keep consistent with the rules. So I am just running with what I currently have. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, because there's been discussions in the Discord. Like I've asked, like I've kind of just probed and just kind of seen what if people have interest in doing kind of like online leagues or things like that. Because those are kind of things that I wanted to do, and I've kind of held off on doing it right now just because you've got the offline stuff going on. But I mean, it could run concurrently, but I've just kind of been busy myself, so that's why I haven't really kind of put things together. But I'm interested in kind of potentially doing something like that. I guess one thing. Or actually, one question about the last chance qualifier. You said that that was going to be sometime in April. So the essentially like the end of the or the finale for this is going to be 8 players, right?
Mhm.
And so there's the 6 qualifiers, and then there's going to be the 2 qualifying from the last chance qualifier, right?
Yes,
And
correct.
then how's the format for the finale going to be?
So with the last chance qualifier, this is the only time I'm asking the players that have qualified to not join this tournament.
Not
With that
enter
in
yet.
mind, I am
Okay.
actually changing the pull up. So the prizes right now, usually like it's $10 for an entry. We'll put $8 into the pot and then $2 to the series itself. So that
Yeah.
way it grows the series pot. So the last chance qualifier, because I am asking the previous winners to not join that one, I do want to uh, change the pot up a bit. So I'll do put 5 to the actual that last chance qualifier itself. So the first
Okay.
top 3 will still get prizes and awards, but it's only 5 of the dollars rather than it being the 8. And then the other
Hmm.
5 will go straight to the series itself, increasing the pot exponentially.
Okay.
Um, Once that tournament happens and we get the top 2 from that, so the whoever's on the winners finals, and then whoever wins on the losers finals, they'll get qualified. They're still gonna play their grand finals just so I can see who I could give the prizes to,
Yeah.
but at least, boom, those 2 are they know they're gonna be playing later that night.
Okay.
I don't have the exact time slots yet. That's something I am trying to finalize and work out, but it pretty much, if I was to start at 2 o'clock and finish the first tournament at 5, I'll take a 30-minute to an hour break, and then we'll start getting into the top 8. And
Okay.
then everyone from there will be playing. I would want to get every match on stream. And with this last tournament in the gaming zone being a smaller bracket of 12 players, I did get a good timing. It kind of used that as my experiment to
Mhm.
figure out how much time I actually need. So that way I can work it out with the venue and make sure the venue's okay with me running it. So I
Gotcha.
am
Okay.
working that all out and getting that part squared away. But
Okay. So was the finale just going to be like a just a normal like a top 8 double elimination bracket, and then
correct.
the seeds based on, or was it going to be seeding based on like?
I am going to do randomized seating,
Okay.
completely full random, just because everyone that qualified, either they got in by being first or they got in because the person in first
Gotcha.
they
Okay.
got second. So I didn't want to give a point value to that. I am doing a full random top 8.
Gotcha. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I don't know how many of these other tournaments I'll be able to enter. I might try to. I wanted to go to a Tucson one. That just kind of things have kind of fallen through with that, but I'll probably try to hit up the next Secret Lab and then possibly the LCQ day and watch the finale and stuff like that if I could do that. Because I did have fun at that Throwback Family Fun place in Casa Grande. Me and my son went there to enter. That was during my wife's birthday weekend. That was a fun venue. There was one point where I was like commentating and something happened in the game at the exact same time that so in the background there's axe throwing going on, and something happened in the game like the end of the round, and then somebody threw an axe at like the same time, and it sounded like somebody like flipped some tables, and it kind of surprised the hell out of me, and I was like looking around, I was like, what the hell just happened?
No
But
sticks were thrown, only axes.
yeah, those sticks are harmed in the running of the Casa Grande tournament, but yeah, that was a fun little event to go to.
Yeah. And I mean, I also want to give a shout out to Godsaw. He helped out with
Yeah,
upgrading the audio setup. Like, I already, big shout outs also to Portajohn, who helped me with getting the audio interface in the first place.
yeah,
But Godsaw did supply me with some headsets. So, streaming wise, we got a better audio quality now. Now I
nice.
gotta find the challenge of balancing the audio out because it starts off really loud, especially some of the pop offs in the last stream. But it's exciting to be
Yes.
able to hear at full times and have a greater audio quality.
Nice.
Have you like found any like I guess commentary experts or anybody that you would highlight as somebody that you would want to have on your mics at your events?
So Godsaw has been volunteering at the Gaming Zone events to run the mics. I really appreciate that because it is nice to have someone on the mics at all times. There's times like in Tucson, we don't have any dedicated mic people. I do appreciate like Velociraptor and Driftwood when they commentate. They throw a fun party. It's a great time having them. But there was a point where I was commentating, and while the match was very entertaining and exciting, I was more focused on just, whoa, what's going on in this match? I got to see what's happening. I couldn't articulate into words. So appreciate everyone dealing with my commentary. But I would love to have more more dedicated commentators. If anyone is interested in doing more commentary, please message me, drop a message in the Spiral Series channel. Love the chat. We'll love to, get you that experience and have you on the mics, especially if you're having fun with it.
Yeah, I try to jump on here and there, like if I'm not playing or I don't have a match queued up or anything like that, then yeah, it's a fun time.
But
commentary is an interesting discipline too. I think that a lot of people in our scene have the talent for it. It's just, right place at the right time a lot of times. And it's a skill in its own too. I think that a lot of folks believe that they can commentate because they're players, but not always are best at articulating it. So I hope I don't think you even have to really know the game to be a good commentator, at least at the local level. So I encourage everybody to give it a shot. We have a fucking podcast, Benny. I'm not like a public speaker by any means, This is all Benny's idea.
Well, see, like you talk about commentators, and like, when I've talked about like kind of the idea for doing the podcast, like I'm not a super technical guy. Like it's funny because like I know some stuff, but it's just like you're like more technical than I am, and especially like even in the game phase. And like when it comes to commentators, I feel like that's typically like the kind of the balance that I think even sports looks for. It's like you find the guy that like knows kind of like the technical stuff and knows the stats, knows the history of those kind of things, and then you have the color commentator, right? The guy that kind of chimes in like the yipes kind of thing, and that's usually a good balance of people. But I think the biggest thing is kind of just knowing like how to talk within kind of like a group setting and kind of play off of each other. Because there's times when like you just got to know like you need to stop talking and let the other person talk, and give yourself a chance to breathe. Is kind of how I always see it. Because like I see a lot of times where people just kind of tend to kind of over talk, and I'm just like, get your point across, and let's move on, or let somebody else interject.
And that can be tough to establish that in a space where like you're basically constantly rotating commentators in and out, and you have different volume levels to worry about and different levels of expertise in the game and experience with commentary in general. A lot of times it's like it's like playing in a band, I imagine, where it's like, if your drummer's off beat, it's going to be really difficult for you to play your guitar even though you're a great guitarist.
Yeah, it's definitely a big chemistry thing for sure in terms of the commentary.
In the production side, I already made like a big oopsie. In the Tucson tournament, we went from the tournament itself, we took a small break, and then we played some exhibitions or money matches. And in between the set, I wanted to record a match that I had off stream. So I muted the mics, I recorded the match. It was good. And as we went into the exhibitions, we just moved right into it, just straight away. And we had commentary. We had Sia and Thrasher on commentary. It was me versus Native Wolf. It was a 1st to 10. I was actually playing a heel, and I was just popping off every time I got a command throw. It was a lot of fun. Brandy, Native Wolf, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but it was very enjoyable. I hope you don't take anything personal. But as the matches were going through and the next exhibition went on, we found out and realized the mics were still muted from the time that I went to go record. So all that commentary was wiped and not existent. So sorry, Thrasher. Sorry, Sia. I heard some of the great phrases that are lost in time forever, but I still appreciate you being on the mics.
Yeah, lesson learned. TO lessons.
Yeah, production lessons too.
Yeah, production lessons.
As if we have to make actual memories with each other instead now.
I don't know. There's that whole community aspect, right?
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
man. Yeah.
So,
I also wanted to touch on one more thing. I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about Capcom Cup, but like there have been rumors of nerfs for the characters, and I think it's kind of difficult to tell right now because people are saying things and they're not true, or they're mistaken. I would say they're not lying. I bet people are just mistaken.
yeah.
So like we're literally like in the middle of that right now, where people are trying to like figure out what has changed and what hasn't changed, because they're playing. There's a group of folks that are playing a new build with Ed in it at the Capcom Cup. And I think that the confirmed changes so far for Street Fighter 6 are that there's additional scaling on JP's counter on the OD Amnesia, and Ken still has a throw loop, but is unable to do dash throw, and instead has to manually time it now. And then I think there are some buffs as well, like Ryu Hashogeki is now safe on block, which makes it plus in burnout. And Jamie, for his Super Art 2, keeps stocks. He keeps his drink stock and doesn't just get rid of them as soon as the SA2 ends.
Then he also gets that Oki or off the throw, the forward throw, I think.
The option for drink or Oki.
Yeah.
Or I think it's both. I thought they gave him both now, where he can cancel the recovery on his throw into drink, so he gets a throw loop and a drink in the corner, which is sound.
He gets rid of his Oki for getting the drink.
That was my understanding.
Yeah. So if you hold throw, he takes a drink, and then that animation is long enough for the person to wake up. So you guys are both at 0 or 0-ish when you drink.
Yeah.
Whereas otherwise, he does have an opportunity to step up if he doesn't drink.
Are we okay? Fair enough. Then another thing is that Zangief can cancel as EX Lariat in a level 3.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen some stuff debunked already, and it just made me think of there was a tweet by K-Brad where he said, "Some players have no idea how to even use training mode, and y'all are believing their word like it's law on these Street Fighter 6 changes. Just wait until the official patch notes come out. y'all getting mad at stuff before even knowing it's true or not."
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've taken it too. Like I was, I've seen stuff and I'm just like, I think one of them was like they nerfed Luke's crouching medium punch, and like they were showing like somebody whiff punishing it, and then that's been discredited, and they're just like, no, nothing's changed at all.
Yeah, it's always been that whiff punishable. We just suck.
Yeah.
The first one I saw was they increased drive bar when you parry a normal attack.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, no, that's a nerf to me. But then I was like, wait a second, it's the same meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no different.
I did get Maynard here because I was trolling and I said that it was confirmed that Sim got a DP, and he's like, "Where do you have footage?" And I'm just like, I was laughing to myself. I was just like, "No, Sim does not have a DP."
I was like, that is the wackest change. Show me proof. You definitely got me though. I was so mad.
Yeah.
It's emblematic of the state of social media nowadays in general, which is like it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's going to go viral if it's inflammatory enough.
Yeah.
I reinstalled X onto my phone, and I started like reaching out to some of my contacts that so to be clear, I quit X, I want to say in like August of last year. It was like after Evo, and I was like, you know what, fuck this place. It's just people mad all the time, and they're actually they're shitting on a game that is objectively good. Like, this is a good ass game, but everybody, like, I see the phrase war crimes a lot, and I'm like, man, we have to say that shit in order for it to the algorithm to track it. Like, it's not that bad. But you know, the internet, the FGC Twitter or FGCX now will give you the impression that the game is way worse than it actually is. And I remember being at Evo being like, you know, despite all my misgivings about it being overly corporatized earlier, like, it still was a community feeling to it. And I quit it in kind of a rage. And then I came back to it with all these balance changes. So I'm like, this is literally the only way that I'm going to be able to get this information. And that information is still wrong. It's still disingenuous. It's still like my lesson here was like, I wasted my fucking time. I like it's just a waste of time to talk to these things because everyone's just trying to. It's a crap bucket thing again. Everyone's just trying to be more inflammatory than the previous person, so that way they get traction. It doesn't even matter if it's fucking true anymore.
Yeah, I'm about to. I was about to lose it here because you mentioned war crimes, and so when we were playing casuals the other day, I actually for once beat John in a set 2-1, and then I beat Velociraptor in a set 2-1, and then me and John played a first to 10 yesterday, and he beat me 10-0, and I was like, yeah, I was laughing. I was laughing just now because you mentioned war crimes because I was in the middle of making this meme photo about Chun-Li's stand roundhouse and the hitbox being so large because it hits me out of everything. And my original thing I was going to post with it in the Discord was like, this move is a war crime. So for you to say that, I was just like, oh man.
I'll put the image on the screen right now. I've got it.
It's a good thing I held back.
Yeah, I like your first variation of the photo with the green box.
I was laughing because I was thinking about that too, and I was just like, when you posted it, I was just like, she can be hit there, and I was just like, man, I'm an idiot. I was like, this is why people don't ask me about the tech stuff. I'm not the tech guy. I'm the guy that's just like, when people are just like, oh, what do you do against this? I was like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
that's John. Ask John how to deal with this.
Yeah, I am a tech guy. That is it's you got to have both fundamentally. Like if you rely too much on numbers, you end up playing like a robot, and then it's easy to predict you. But if you end up playing too much on your heart, then you miss a lot of opportunities for ways to optimize and create more random scramble situations. Gotta have both.
I remember you mentioned that about me too, because you were talking about how I used to be more of a heart player, and like I guess I'm leaning towards being more of a brain player. And Maynard pointing that out to me kind of just like took all my credibility away, and I'm just like, I'm not a brain player at all. I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
At least you're willing to admit it and not lie about it like on fucking Twitter.
Nah.
I mean, I remember Twitter. There was came out with like pitchforks on Angry Bird because he was talking about why Luke was better than Ken, and he was showing the Luke Fierce Punch, and he was showing that the recovery, the blue meter. It was like, this is the active window, right? And someone just put that out of context, and everyone was just coming at him with pitchforks, and it's like, it's okay. He doesn't know how to read that data. He's still better than you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. What would you consider yourself, Maynard, as far as like a body, heart, or mind player?
I'm just in between, like, I want to say heart and mind. I would say leaning more towards heart, and then like
wait,
I want to put
how
more
would you describe?
mind.
Wait. So, just for clarity's sake, how would you describe all three, John? Because I completely forget like what a body player is. Because I know like a heart player kind of like. I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. So a mind player is probably the easiest one to think about, in that it's somebody who just really knows tech really well, knows the game mechanics really well, and plays like a robot. An example of that would be like Fujimura, I guess. Yeah, Fujimura or Sako, or like known technical players. A heart player would be somebody that is actually no, I wouldn't put Sako in mind. Sorry. The heart player is somebody that plays on reads and someone that plays with their heart, essentially. And that's somebody like Daigo, who will uppercut you like 5 times in a row, right? The body is the execution guy, the guy that is able to like do really like complicated execution stuff, and that's Sako. And obviously they all have their own degree of like relying on reads versus doing technical stuff. Like Daigo can definitely do technical stuff, so it's not like exclusive, but it's kind of a spectrum.
Yeah,
I'd be like 60 or 70% into heart, and then like 20 into mind. I think I absorb the tech really well, but coming up with it myself, that's not me. Someone else needs to figure that out.
Yeah, that's not me. I'm not the guy to figure stuff out.
Arguably, you guys are in a better position nowadays for that because you can just steal it from the internet now. Like, there's no
Yep.
like in the past, like when there wasn't the ability to share video, even like it would just be like a text post on shoryuken.com, right? Like
Yeah.
we wouldn't have like we'd have to like it would reward the people who are creative because there wouldn't be any other source of knowledge otherwise. But like now you can be like, I don't have to come up with that because it'll be served to me on a silver platter on the internet.
Yep.
And it might be wrong based on how the Capcom Cup balance stuff has been going, but
I was about to say that's where, like, when I was trying to try Aki out, I did a compilation of all the tweets talking about Aki tech, and I want to say maybe about 50% of it was incorrect.
Oh wow.
And that was the rough part. I was like, hey, this is supposed to be a safe jump setup. I did it on John and I got an uppercut for it. So
yep. And that's because safe jumps are varying in degree based on the normal that you press, but people don't think about that. They just think the word safe jump and they're like, okay, that's a thing.
Yeah.
But like I was actually, you know who asked me about a safe jump yesterday? It was Jess. And she told me, she's like, I know what a safe jump is, but I don't know how it works. I just know that they jump and sometimes an uppercut will not work. And at the end of the day, from a functional standpoint, that's all you kind of need to know about. But like there's like deep technical mechanics around that based on landing recovery, what normal you press while you're jumping, whether your jump arc, the time it takes for you to jump, because that varies from character to character. But I think to the average player, including competitive players, frankly, including folks on this call, I think all you really need to know is that you can't DP it.
Yeah, that's funny you brought up safe jumps because that was something that I was actually like looking back on, and there's a bunch of bookmarked tweets that I have from Breezy Man, who's basically like the biggest source I think of Dalsim tech that actually like puts it out there. Like, you know, FChamp figures stuff out on his stream and stuff like that. People will clip it here and there. I'll see it in the Discord, but as far as somebody that's just like, here, this is something I figured out. Like it's been Breezy Man. So like I was going back and looking at because I've been using Sims SA2 a lot lately in combos, and I remember seeing safe jump setups off of that, and yeah, so I was practicing stuff with that, and yeah, it was same thing. Like yeah, just seeing what it worked against, or if I had the timing down. So another thing to add into my repertoire eventually.
Sim in particular is really unique for how he does safe jumps because you have to use teleport for it because his normal jump is like he floats and then you make a sandwich and then he lands, right?
And
like
if there's a safe jump that involves that would be like the nuttiest looking thing. Like because you'd have to have, I don't even know how many frames is that jump from like jumping to landing, dude.
Oh, it's probably like it's like Chun's is a floaty one. That's 45 frames or 48 frames.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah,
you know what?
I think it's TK teleport for your safe jumps, right?
Yeah, most of the time, yeah. I'm thinking
okay,
might be able to do it off of like a stun. If I stun somebody like with DI and then I do like a normal jump and I land, I could probably figure out maybe there's a safe jump from the time that they recover. If I don't hit them, they fall on their face and then they wake up.
When you just already have a free combo from a stun.
Yeah, when I have a free combo.
It's like, why? Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
This is like, oh, he just put him at the DI in the corner. Looks like he's going for the safe jump, and he's just like,
I didn't want the scaling. That's the post interview.
That'd be like the only situation I think that I would have a long enough time for me to jump and land.
Probably.
Oh man, that'd be some funny stuff though.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's another Benny disrespect compilation.
All he does is float.
Yeah. Have you seen his last video? He threw a level 2 at someone and threw his taunt out, and his arm was like over reaching to the character. Tell him to come here.
Yeah, you've been having a lot of good sets with people lately. I do want to call attention to the 2-1. Just we're going to talk game theory, or not game theory, but specifically like our own journeys as players here. like I'm trying to come back to the game. One of the things that I don't even think I've talked about it on the show is that I bought a new hitbox. I can actually grab it real quick and show it on the video here. It's a Japanese hitbox, and it's like it's got all. Well, it's not Japanese. Sorry, it's made in China actually, but it's got all these extra buttons on it, which is how the Japanese play essentially. And I've been waiting for the past year because I'm like, man, they're probably gonna ban all these extra buttons, and they never did. And so like it's out of control on the other side of the ocean over there. All that to say is like I've been doing that, and I've been coming back to it. And then I was like, hey Benny, I want to play you and see where I stand. You know, we had a decent set at the beginning, and then the 2-1 happened as well. And like I wanted to call attention to the fact that like you were able to adapt to how I was playing against you pretty handily. And then you now don't really drop your combos as much, and your defense is still well as much as before, at least. And I find it interesting. Like my point here is I actually find it really interesting because my weakness as a player is my inability to read my opponent a lot of times, and so I lean on the robot stuff, and I lean on game knowledge instead to substitute for that. And then I think and so to me, I'm like, combos are easy. Combos are just something you just grind out and eventually it'll work. But for you, it seems like your ability to read is fantastic. But like incorporating the combos into your muscle memory while continuing to play at the level that you do is actually the bigger challenge. And that's just a testament to the open-endedness of this genre, I think, is that there's so many styles of play, and we're like Pokemon, we have strengths and weaknesses, we match up differently. Maynard, I don't know where you fall on this one. Like I think your combos have gotten pretty solid too, but like, and you've got drops, but you also make pretty strong reads. Like I think when you and I play, like you've taken a fair amount of sets from me over the past couple of weeks here. So good on you too, man.
Thank you. I do think the neutral training that you've helped me with it's gone very far, and I think that was a big push for me to blow through the ceiling, and now I have a new ceiling to hit.
Yeah,
nice.
you play more reactive now, and now it's like when I play you, at least my notion is I need to like play with his reactions, like trick him into going to a whiff punish and then doing something fucking random. So I like I don't know. We've talked at length about this over food. I think about like having to play against the player versus having to play mechanical and be predictable. And there's just a whole spectrum of different ways to play this game. And then Benny, before we even started taping this show today, we were talking about like how does ranked prepare you for that? How does Battle Hub prepare you for that? How does custom room prepare you for that? Because those styles of play facilitate different things, you know?
Yeah, because that was my thing. Like I posted it in the Discord in terms of like what people's goals were for Phase 3, because for me, Phase 2, like my goal was to hit 1700 MR, and I was really focused on that. Like I don't know, it was just something that I wanted to hit for myself. And so even when I'd see people post in the looking for games thread and say, "Hey, anybody want to play?" Like I would disregard it and be like, you know what, I need to get this. I want to get this MR, and I want to hit this goal. And then so for this phase, like, but you know, I kind of felt like I was kind of stagnant in like my growth as a player. Like, yeah, I was beating some of these higher ranked players, and I was hitting this milestone in ranked, and that was cool and all. But I felt like as a player, like I was stagnating, and so my focus this time was to play. I still wanted to play ranked just to kind of like put myself out there and kind of test things at the same time, but my focus this time has been more kind of like battle hub matches and then playing sets against people. So like now I've got like notifications on for that thread. So when I see people post, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I'm on. Or a lot of times I was literally sitting at home and I'd see somebody posting there and be like, nah, I don't want to play them. Nowadays I'm just like, all right, yeah, I'll play a set with them and kind of see how things are going.
You
and then
like learn the matchup.
Yeah, and then the other thing was like, yeah, just a lot of like hub matches and like I know there's ways for you to check like how people what ranks people are, but when I go into the hub, I'm just looking for Ethernet connection and what character you're playing, because I don't want to play sim mirror. So I just that if I see you sitting down, you're playing sim, like I'm not gonna sit down with you. I just think it's pointless. And if you're playing on Wi-Fi, like I'm not gonna do that either. So I mean I've done it here and there, and it's been a crapshoot. I've had teleporting Guiles, I've had teleporting Ryus. I posted a clip where I got a perfect on a Ryu that was lagging so hard, and I was just like, bro, I was just like, this is stupid. But yeah, it's been a good experience because like I've had weird conversations with people in the hub crying about having to chase me as a Dhalsim player, and I'm like, get used to it, bro. Like that's my character. Like these limbs are long for a reason. They're supposed to hit you from full screen, and you're supposed to fight your way in. And that was like a Mano player from the other day, and I was like, "You got 4 medals, bro." I was like, "I don't want to be anywhere near you. Like, come and get me. Like that's your game, and that's what I'm gonna do." But it's been a mix of like lower level players. There's master level players in there too, doing the same thing that I'm doing. Or I mean, I don't know what their goals are, but that's kind of just been my focus right now. Is kind of just I've been looking at a lot more tech stuff or combos, setups, and Oki and stuff like that, and trying to do that in the hub, and then at the same time dealing with kind of like the randomness that comes with the people that are in the hub and some of those lower level players, because there's people that will jump at you 4 times in a row, doesn't matter what happens, and they get that one hit with Ken. I'm in the corner and like I lose a round, and I'm just like, it's just because they got that one hit, right? And you play other players that are, I don't want to say more standard, but people like you guys. And if I anti-air you guys 4 times in a row, like you guys are going to probably second guess the next time you're going to jump, right? And I've noticed like when I've gone into rank now, like I've been more consistently winning as a result. And I think that's kind of a mixture of because I've been doing those hub matches and then playing sets and kind of solidifying more of the growth in my game lately.
I get you. I have a unique perspective here in that I haven't really competed consistently since August or since Evo, really. Even then, after Evo, I got really sick, so I missed one of the bigger tournaments with all that money that was on the line. But then now that I'm kind of coming back, and then realistically, I did like
the one on Game On you're talking about.
Yeah,
the one on Game On Expo, yeah.
Yeah, but that now we're in February, and I've had the chance to witness everyone's growth over the past couple months, and there is a path that I've seen here. I haven't talked to either of you guys about this yet, so this might catch you off guard. But when I went to New York, you've seen the videos with me and Tanner breaking down the Street Fighter 6 beta, or the demo specifically, and we were just talking up parry so much because parry is a defining trait in this game. We knew it was going to be out of the gates, and to the point where Tanner, as a Mortal Kombat player, he considers it a block button, which is the right answer. I think you consider it a block button, then like there's no reason to not parry instead of blocking if you know you're about to block something, because you'll recover the drive or whatnot. So I overused parry when I was in New York, and I was traveling and playing this game, and at the highest level, people punished the shit out of it. And I come back here and nobody really knew how to use parry. And so one thing that I found interesting is that now everybody uses parry a lot in Arizona specifically. This is a negative to me. It's a call out. And then our scene, man, I'm kind of a dick on this episode. I just want to be very clear here. I had food poisoning yesterday or last night, and I just shat all over Evo, and I was really cynical about this League of Legends thing. But like, I have been feeling shitty, and I'm just going. I'm hella negative right now, so I apologize for that. But
it's all right. Be the heel. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll play heel. I call it lazy parry, where we do this thing. Everybody seems to have this habit in our community, except for Thrasher and Velociraptor, of all the people I've played, where if you're getting hit by a combo, you just hold parry naturally because they may, or you're mashing parry because you want a perfect parry in case they drop it, or you're ready to drive rush at them or whatever when they drop it or whatever. And so people just hold parry while they're getting hit. So what happened for me is I'm coming back from like a big ass break and I can't do my combos anymore. And I'm learning this new hitbox, so I still can't do my combos. So I drop my shit pretty regularly, but I drop it and then I see everybody holding parry while I'm dropping it. And I'm like, oh, cool. I just did 2 jabs. I didn't confirm. I'm going to go walk up, throw them. Every single person that I've played, except for the 2 that I named, you hold parry and then you just kind of, then I just walk up and throw your ass. And if I had a throw loop, it would be so much more dangerous. I could probably win the game off that. So I want to be very clear here in that holding parry during someone's combos is a nice thing, but don't get lazy about it. Like, think about it when you're parrying. Because otherwise, like, the next evolution here, and this is what Maynard did to me, and I didn't know it at the time, but like he would like really punish me for using parries, and I've been doing that to people in our scene locally. I've been doing stuff where like I'm negative on block, and then they still hold parry because they think it's that I'm in a block string, and they're getting lazy about it, and then I just walk up and throw their ass even though I'm negative. So it's be very, very careful with how you use parry. I'm not lecturing you two specifically, but I'm trying to lecture our whole scene, and that like it's got to be a conscious decision. Don't just hold it blindly while you're not in control. Not a good look.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something that I've noticed with a lot of players here too. Like that's just something I've added into my game personally because as Dawson, like I don't have a reversal other than my supers, right? And it's something that I've tried to pick up on as being more active defensively. And I've gotten to the point to where I've got to dial it back because, like, from playing you, John, in specific, and other people that have punished it, like I think it was Scott. Yeah, I played Scott, and he even told me the same thing. He's just like, I think you, or I think it was you that was telling me specifically. It was just that I parried too much, and so I started to dial that back, and I found myself with more success just blocking again. I think I kind of got into this whole idea where I was just like, this is the better option for me defensively, but then I was kind of like a victim of what I was doing to everybody else because pretty much everybody that I play that's unfamiliar with Dawson, like they see that arch fireball come out and it's instant parry, and I'm like, oh, I can whiff slide in front of you and throw you. And like their drive meter is gone in no time, and I'm just like, they don't know what to do against this. So they get into I've gotten in kind of the same habit, like I said, where I got to the point to where I was getting too parry happy. So now I've kind of dialed it back. I think I'm kind of in a good medium now where I'm not doing it as much because even playing people on in the hub or rank, like I was getting punished by certain people because they were just like, oh, he's just parrying all the time, and I was just like, I need to just block, or I need to delay jab, or I need to do something besides that so that I'm not getting thrown all the time. But yeah, I definitely see that from a lot of people in our scene too, because like, yeah, I've gotten a lot of mileage out of throws because people are like, oh, I always call it like the look at the birdie kind of thing, right? I throw the arch and I'm just like, I see what they're doing, and like I just see the blue and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I was like, here, let me walk up. Like I've got so many walk up throws, and you see how slow Dawson's walk speed is. He's just creeping towards you.
Yeah, so that's what the slide's for then, is to get in range that way. Huh?
Yes, I mean, but the fact that I'm even getting like slow walk throws is because like they're just watching that fireball bounce directly in front of them, and I'll just like walk past it and I'll just like, here.
Like I think that like my call out here is like, don't be lazy with parry, but the other side of it is people are going to learn passively anyway, because what you just described, Benny, is you've already come up with anti-parry tech with that, right? Mm-hmm. And then Maynard, I know that you actually have anti-parry tech now too, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Would you be interested in describing that? Yeah.
One of the big ones right now is I have the target combo set up. So there's jab jab. She does a 1-2, a left right, and then to make it safe, I would gladius, just a flat gladius. It's -5, but it pushes you back, and it's it makes it safe, and it's a true combo. A lot of people will try to like parry that that middle part. Sometimes if I charge it, they'll give a window for them to parry it, and the perfect parry is definitely detrimental to Marissa, obviously. So what I would do, I'd do jab jab, and I noticed people are parrying often. I would not go into the gladius. I would drive rush and throw them, Sometimes if they're in a corner, I could walk up and command throw. It's like massive damage, and it being one of my game plans is to burn your drive meter. It helps so much more in that area. One of the things I'm also doing now is I would charge heavy punch, and it's plus, so it's still my turn. And sometimes I would continue the strain with another strike, but sometimes because I'm constantly hitting buttons, you'll start seeing people get lazy. They'll just start holding parry, and because I'm moving in a forward momentum, that just gives me a range to just go into a command throw, and it's beautiful. Just how much damage you get off of it. I just love it. It's such a big dopamine hit for me. I was like, oh, it feels so good.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things where, like I said, I was being a heel in Tucson when I was fighting Native Wolf, and I was getting away with that. And one of the things I was being a heel for was I was shouting out the number of times I command throwed her. So in the middle of the set,
wow.
I was shouting 5, 6.
Nice.
So, but yeah, that it definitely feels good. And thank you, John. Also, you've kind of exposed me to that and where I was doing it. Defensively, I was a big parry masher, and after our big talk and discussion about it a few weeks back, I did find the value in just blocking, and I found the value in like one of my big weaknesses was fighting projectile users, Shotos, Guile, etc. I've added neutral jump, playing like Super Turbo. When I'm walking forward and I see him throwing a lot of fast fireballs, if I know Ryu has a Denjin charge, he could only throw a fast fireball. I would neutral jump that. And that would allow me to continue gaining my meter, because usually parrying a projectile breaks even. So if you jump the projectile, you're gaining meter.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another side of it too, is that when you neutral jump it, the fireball still remains on the screen, so they cannot throw another fireball, which is kind of helpful. You can actually gain more ground that way than if you had just jumped it ordinarily, I think, or than if you parried it rather, because when you parry it, it takes it off the screen, and then they can throw another one freely.
Yeah, that's very true. So that's much more benefits. That's just both meter and distance gained. Yep. So,
yeah, with Chun, I've recently started doing stance on stance. This actually ties a lot back into the heart, mind, and body thing we were talking about earlier. Because we can talk about like the numbers, right, about being super negative on block, or in your case, Maynard, even with you with your target combo, like you're doing an unsafe thing and then banking on them parrying, right? And from a numbers standpoint, from a mind standpoint, that's a really dumb idea. But in a game with parry, like that is actually like a really solid idea. That's actually, I think, why a lot of people criticize Third Strike, is because it looked dumb in some cases, because people were just shooting for parries. People were like empty jump at each other and then just meet midway in the middle of the screen, right? And you'd be like, what the hell is this game, right? But this game rewards heart play in that manner, because if you have a read that they're going to parry a lot, then you get a huge reward for it. So again, this game is really good. Don't believe FGCX. It's really good. This is a really well balanced and well thought out game.
Yeah. Speaking of FGCX, Dalsum has a command grab now. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah,
it does. It's cute pro, right? That is a command grab.
Yeah,
they gave me command grab. Oh my god! If he gave me command grab, that'd be too good. Try first command grab from Dalsum. Oh my god.
Well, this has been the first episode in a long time. I think we took a hiatus, as Benny mentioned at the beginning of the episode, so we had a lot to talk about today. But is there any further topics you all are interested in discussing today, or any shout outs or anything?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I just appreciate everyone coming out for the X Championship Series. This is my first time running like a tournament series, so seeing the feedback, seeing the people coming out, and being excited to play, and it means a lot. So thank you guys for all coming out.
Yeah,
cool. In a rare occurrence, I actually have 3 shout outs in that, and I very rarely get it. I don't think I ever ask myself if I have any shout outs. So, you know what? I'm going to turn this into my fucking live journal. One of the reasons why I've been on a break is that I got married, and so like the wedding planning was very, very stressful, and I want to thank you both for coming to my wedding and like making that day so special. After that, we had holidays, and I'm still trying to figure out where like where I fit as a husband, as a player, as a podcast host or community or leader or whatever the hell I do nowadays in the local fighting game community, figuring out where I fit in with my job and whatnot. And I fell into a pretty deep pit these past 2 months, specifically in January and February here. And I do want to give a shout out to you two who have helped. Whether I don't think you even know like what you have done for me and for my mental health over the course of the past years, as well as Freezy, Chase, and Thrasher. Big Mac combo, Filet-O-Fish, Big Mac combo. Yeah, so Freezy, Big Mac combo, and Thrasher. I consider all of you all I consider all of you all friends, and the dark place that I was in, I think you guys like have kind of reminded me of like the important part of playing these games, and it's relationships and friendships, and in Freezy's case, mentorships. Part of being a mentor is recognizing what they can teach you as well. And Freezy's taught me so much about both the game and about like how Gen Alpha thinks. I think these kids these days, and they don't know what's going on. And Chase is one of the brightest players that I've ever played in any fighting game, period. He thinks so much. Like he breaks down the game. He doesn't do it in like in a mechanical way where he's a robot. He does it in a way where like I really feel like we communicate with each other so well through the game. And I have yet to actually find a training partner like that in any other game. And lastly, Thrasher, who I consider him a very, very good friend, and he's like a lot of those dark places that I was talking about. He's helped me directly address a lot of those issues. So I want to really thank you all for that. I don't really have anything unawkward to say to transition to the ending of our show from here, so I'm just gonna end it right here if that's cool. This has been the Absolute Guard Podcast, episode 73, with John, Benny, and Maynard. You can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Spiral Series, YouTube at youtube.com/Spiral Series, and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Absolute Guard. To all of you watching and listening, I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope that we can keep doing this. I know we've been on a break, but we're gonna hit 100 here pretty soon, Benny. We got to figure out something cool for that. So cool. Have a good night. I did not queue up the exit music because I'm busy pouring my heart out. But have a good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Have a good night, everyone.